Hello, sir.
Yes.
Sir, I have a doubt in the quiz question. There was a question in quiz, what will be the output in REPL environment? I want to ask, what is the exactly difference between the when we run the code on browser or on the REPL?
So see, the difference is when you run your JavaScript code in a script environment or as a script, what does JS engine does is it basically wraps your entire program into a function. And if it is doing so, then the context actually changes. Because now, if you are using this, then this no more refers to the global object. Instead, it refers to some local object.
In the question, it was asking the REPL output, and this, sir, can you please show the question paper of this mock question? I think is number 1 or 2 question.
Can someone please share me the question paper?
Quiz
I
question.
may not. Can you share me the link to that question paper? I may not
Yes,
have the
sir.
direct link to that.
Yes, sir.
Sir, will we need a WSL for this?
Yes, you will be needing WSL because we need Redis as a broker.
How you will also be telling us how to run WSL on VS Code, right? If it is installed already.
Of course, means you can either use WSL from VS Code or can open a separate window for that. Ultimately, even if you do it on VS Code, it will use the same WSL terminal in the backend.
Okay, sir.
Sir, I have shared the link.
Okay, which question number is it?
I think
Finally,
so question number 1 or 2 initially.
okay, which question paper is it?
Uh,
2DD2, 3, and 4.
2.
Okay, and question number?
Sir, let me check.
Okay, so this is a consolidated question paper. Yeah.
Sir, question number 173.
173. Just a minute. Okay, I'm not sharing my screen as well. Share that too. I hope my screen is now visible to you all.
Yes, sir.
Question number 173. Yeah, here it is. Okay, what will be the output of the program if executed in a REPL environment? So what you're doing here is you are creating a variable with the keyword where. Now what happens is when you run any program and you use this keyword where, what does it do is it actually creates this variable as a property in the global object. That means this first is of course a global variable in this program, but now this has also been added as a property to the global object. So the global object will now have a property name called first, and it will have a value of 30 to it. Now after that you are creating a couple of objects. Just give me a minute. Yeah, sorry. Okay, so you are creating a couple of objects here. One is obj1, the other one is obj2. Both objects are defining the same properties, but since both of these properties are belonging to different objects, so that is not a concern. Object 1 creates or adds a property called first having value 50. Similarly, obj2 adds a property called first but having value 80. Similarly, obj1 has a property called second, and so does obj2. and both are having their own function implementations. Now, at the end, we see that the second function of obj2 object is being invoked. That means this function is being invoked, and we are using call here. Does anyone remember why do we use call? Call, apply, and bind. These three methods.
Yes, sir. We give this context in obj1, and it will.
Exactly, we use this so that we can change the context for the function that we are invoking. Now, second function, which was initially having the context of obj2, what we are saying is we want to invoke this function via call method, and we want to change the context to obj1. That means this inside this second function will no more refer to obj2. Instead, it will refer to obj1 from now on. Now let's see what happens once we get into this function. So here it says console.log value this dot first. As I told you, this means what? This means obj1. And obj1 dot first, what does it mean?
50.
It means 50. So I hope first output is clear. The first statement is going to be 50. Now after that, what we are saying is we are saying this dot second. Again, this has to be interpreted as obj1. So what you are saying here is you are saying obj1 dot second is what you are saying. That means you are trying to invoke the second function that belongs to object obj1.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now we get into this function called second. It is an arrow function. Remember, it is an arrow function. And arrow functions do not have their own implementation of this. Instead, what they do is they inherit the context of this from the enclosing context. And what is the enclosing context here for this object?
Mm,
For this function inside second,
Global.
it is the global context. So this here is going to refer to the global object, and this dot first is going to refer to a property named first in the global object. As I told you initially, that when you run this program and create a variable using var keyword, it creates a property called first in the global object, and that's what you are trying to access here. So this dot first is actually is actually trying to access this property that you have created in the first line of this program, that is 30.
yes, sir. Sir, if we run this same program in this browser, is it make any difference?
Browser, how are you going to run it in browser?
Like like we run normal VS Code by attaching to this HTML script file to an index.html, and if we
That there will be no difference. Yes, if you do it on console or if you embed your JS file in an HTML, that would work fine.
okay, and so in the node it will make change. It will different node
Now,
environment.
again, that depends on how are you actually trying to run it. If you are running it in the interactive shell of Node, this will still give you the same output that we have just discussed. But if you run it as a script, that means, let's say if you create a file called hello.js and then you say node hello.js, then the output will change. That means if you are opening a Replit project, you are writing your program in a file named hello.js and you are clicking on that green run button, that is going to give you a different output, is what I'm saying.
Sir, how will the output be different? Would just
Sorry?
print? How would the output be different? Would it just say undefined instead of 30?
Yeah, exactly. Because in that case, as I told you, this entire program will be wrapped inside a function. And if this entire program is being wrapped up inside a function, then this var no more adds this property into the global object.
Same will be true for browser also, right?
No. Browser will still run it in the global environment.
But wouldn't the global environment be wrapped around the window object?
That's what the global environment is.
Okay. I thought that there were two layers in the browser.
Can you try to speak a bit louder?
Sorry, I thought that the window environment was wrapped onto another layer in the browser. Maybe not.
In
Maybe
script
that's-
environment, what happens is the window object actually invokes another function, and that function contains all this code that you have written in your program.
Okay.
So ultimately, what you are doing is you are creating another function execution context. Remember the lecture where I told you that how a JavaScript program is executed? It creates a global execution context first, and then for every function that you invoke, it is going to create a different or a separate function execution context. So that is why it is going to make the difference in that case, because this entire code is being executed inside the scope or context of a function. 50 and 30 is the output, and yeah, yeah. I hope it is clear.
Yes, sir. Sir, one more question, sir. Question number 188. Just hold on.
This one.
Yes, sir. Sir, in this
Okay.
question, the first answer, first option is wrong. What does it make? What this hash make difference here? Because in the second option, the
Oh,
hash.
okay, okay. So probably this application makes use of view. Sorry. So see, whenever you integrate view with any of your application, you would notice this hash, before the start of your actual view URL. Now, this basically represents the history mode in view. So browser has multiple modes. I think a couple of modes that view makes use of, and by default, view makes use of this hash mode for maintaining the history. So that is why you would notice this hash in between every view URL that you will use in any application.
But sir, when we make the URL endpoint, we
Mhm.
directly hit the browser. Then
Hmm.
it's depend upon view. It include hash or not. It does it does don't
No, no,
give
it
any
will
out.
have to. It will have to. Means, see, when you actually make a request with your code and you are rerouting the user to some other routes that you have defined in your view application, then view knows that it has to add that hash in your URL because that route itself is coming from view router.
Yes. Okay, sir. Got. We are not manually giving. We are just clicking the link on this.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
Means the user is not supposed to manually enter anything into the URL.
If we manually enter, it will fail. This
If you manually enter, I am not sure about the exact behavior. Maybe you can try it once.
because sir, I thought in the exam, okay, if we directly hit this URL in browser, it will give the output. But after that, I saw this is wrong.
Yeah, so maybe you can try this thing. You create a simple view application. You first try to hit an endpoint with hash and then without hash and see what happens.
Okay, sir.
Okay, shall I close it?
Yes, sir.
Uh, okay, fine. So let us get started with what is going to be the today's agenda. So as I told you, I am going to give you a demonstration on Celery usage. So first of all, I would like to ask you all: does anyone know about Celery? What is it? Why do we use it?
So whatever was discussed in the lectures only, like it is basically like in the distributed system paradigm, in which like if we need to do tasks which are very intensive, right? We need to hand over them to other systems. That is what we
Yes.
use Celery for. The Celery is basically taking task and kind of using a broker or something,
Mhm.
message broker, and sending those tasks and kind of handling this whole management of kind of pushing the tasks to pushing or pulling. I don't know. They're two different things. There's like a queue in which we are putting the task, and then the task gets handed off to someone else, and then it gets processed, and then it can be kind of the result can come back later on. That is
Yeah,
we
absolutely
that is
correct.
what we are using Celery for.
Yeah, exactly. Uh, yes, that's correct. Whatever you have said. So as Ritvik has already told you all, that Celery is basically a task queue implementation in Python, which we use in order to execute all uh, high computation intensive tasks so that we can offload an actual web server. What happens is your Flask web application, let's say, is running on a particular server, and a user sends a request. Let's say user wants to upload a very big CSV file. Okay. So if you try to do it synchronously on your web server, what it can do is it can basically block a particular thread on your application and can cause the application to be non-responsive. right, for a few users, or let's say for the same user who is trying to upload that file. Because let's say if that CSV upload is going to take 1 minute or more than 1 minute, in that case, the browser is actually stuck on that web page itself and cannot move anywhere else. So what would you do in such scenarios is you would offload this process onto another system that is dedicatedly, uh, maintained for uh, executing such tasks. So what you did is you basically created a Celery system, and whenever your Flask application receives a request for executing such high computive task, you basically send a request or you dispatch that task to Celery system, or instead the Celery broker, which is going to internally maintain a queue. So what broker is going to do is broker is going to push that particular task into queue, and Celery system will have a number of workers. Now those workers depend upon the hardware, the actual number of cores that the system has, and depending upon which worker is free, that worker is going to pick up the task that resides in the message queue. It executes that task. Once the task gets completed, it pushes the result back to the result backend. And once the result has been pushed into the result backend, you can basically check whether the status of your task is completed or not. We will also see that in today's session, that how do we do that. And based on that, you can take certain action. So ultimately, instead of blocking the users, uh, uh, basically, yeah, users interaction with the web page for 1 minute or 2 minutes or so, what you would do is as soon as the user hits the upload button, you would say that we have started the uploading of this particular CSV or whatever file that you want to upload in the background, and we will let you know once it gets completed. And let's say once you do that, after every 10 seconds or 15 seconds, depending upon whatever time interval suits you the best, you can do polling. After, let's say, after every 15 seconds, you are sending a request and checking whether the given task that you have just dispatched is completed, whether its state is pending or completed or whatever it is. Once it gets completed, you can let the user know that your upload has been completed. Something like that. Maybe I can just show it on the Xcali draw, or I think Tetsan has already showed it somewhere. So maybe I can just open Xcali draw once again. So what happens is we can create a Celery system. Let's say this is the Celery system for us. Now, what all components will this Celery system come with? One thing that you can think of is going to be the broker. Yeah, let's say this is going to be a broker. And those workers are the actual components that are going to execute your task. So a Celery system may have a number of workers. So this is first, this is, let's say there are just two workers, and then we can have a result packet. Right? Once the task gets completed, then those results will be pushed into this result packet. This is result packet. This is going to be your message broker. These are going to be your workers. Okay. So what you need to do here in this Celery system is you need to somehow push some task to this message broker. You need to let this message broker know that you have some task to be executed, and that can be done via multiple things, via multiple methods. Of course, the case that we are going to discuss in today's session is going to be that we are going to have a Flask app, which is basically being used by a user. That user is going to make a request, and Flask app on behalf of the user is going to push that particular task into the message broker. It is going to push that task to message broker. Now, what will happen is this message broker will have one task here. Now, if some of the workers are free here, what they will do is this task will actually be picked by one of the workers. Let's say this worker is going to pick that task. Once this task gets completed, what it is going to do is it is going to push the result of that particular task into this result backend. And then this task that you had pushed to the message broker or to the message queue will be popped out from here once it is picked up by the worker. Right? So that is how the entire system is going to work. Well, this is the entire Celery system.
For
A
every
salary system is
task,
going to consist of, yes,
so for every task, there's a different worker.
for every task.
Will there be a different worker?
No, not necessarily. As I told you, the number of workers that a salary application can come up with depends on the hardware, depends on the number of cores that your system have. Let's say if you have just two workers available and 10 tasks have been pushed into message broker, then the first or the two workers that are available will first try executing the first couple of tasks in the queue. Once they complete those two tasks, they will pick up the next two, then next two, then next two. This is how the things will.
Okay, sir.
So I guess they deploy the load balancer to distribute the task between that worker, sir. I think so.
See, load balancer is something else. Means load balancer will be a kind of a reverse proxy that is going to
I mean,
basically manage the
whatever
load of your
what
Flask application or your web application.
we can use it in this system also, sir. I mean, message broker. I mean, system application integration
No,
object manager also.
why would you want to do that? Means salary system will
Because
automatically take care of that.
it has to distribute among the worker sites, sir. I mean, how it will know like which worker is busy right now and which worker is available at the moment.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Means salary system will take care of that.
Okay, maybe inbuilt functionality probably. Yeah.
Uh, okay, so yeah,
And
this is one of
Celery is
the
specifically built for this, right? This is what functionality Celery is built for.
yeah,
What it does.
exactly for executing high computing intensive tasks so that you offload your web server. As I just told you an example for such kind of scenarios.
Sir, so salary system and web server are they're two different things, or they're same thing? And I just get
Yes, of
confused.
course, there are two. These are two different things.
So your Flask app is a server, and I just want to understand more. Let's say I'm sitting my computer, I want to upload a CSV file, as you told that. So I will send the request to the server. So where the server will come in this diagram here? I mean, if
This is a server, Flask app.
the Flask app is a server. Okay. So the
See,
server
if you are
send the
running everything locally, then the salary system as well as your web application server is sitting on the same machine. But
okay.
that may not always be the case. Let's say if you have deployed your application, it is very probable that your actual Flask application server is sitting on some machine and your salary system is sitting on some other machine or your
Okay.
brokers actually.
Okay, so got the point.
Okay. One more thing I wanted to tell you is that this is one of the ways through which we can push tasks to message broker. The another way to do it is basically using beat. Beat means salary beat. So what you can do with the help of salary beat is you can schedule task. Now here
So
what is happening is
Celery what?
salary beat.
Beat.
Yeah, BEAT beat.
Okay.
So here what is happening is the user is making a request and then on behalf of the user or on getting a request from the user, this application is pushing those tasks to message. That means this is user driven. Whenever the user is asking for something, then the Flask application is doing something. Now what you can do is you can also do it on time base. Let's say on the at 5 p.m. every day you want to execute a task. Then what you can do is you can configure those tasks into your salary beat system, and those salary beat is again going to push those tasks to your message broker. And once those tasks have been pushed into the message broker, whenever the worker is available for executing those tasks, that will be picked up and will be executed. So this is also doable. Maybe let us see if we can also see a demonstration for this salary beat today. But otherwise, the focus is going to be on the Flask application. I hope this is clear to all.
Sir, can you just I mean, okay, Flask app you're talking about. Okay, can you just tell me like what do you mean by task, sir? You have
What do you
Flask
mean
app.
by?
I mean, what do you mean by the task? You have Flask
Okay.
app, okay? It has certain functions, okay?
Yeah.
You click on function, add record, add delete record, whatever you do. So does it mean, I mean, that thing? I mean, when you do the add record, so it will take the request. The message broker will take the request to add the record like that. I mean, what exactly mean by task?
Exactly means a task is simply a function that you want to execute.
Okay, so suppose in the Flask app I have a couple of buttons. So when I click on something on the Flask app or any button, this message broker will take as a task. Correct?
That depends. Means if you intend to send it as a task to your salary system, then yes, it will.
Okay. Okay.
See,
I
this
just was
depends on your
one.
code. Let's say what happens is you click on that button. Now, the action for that button could be that you send a basically a request to some of your Flask endpoint. Now, that Flask
Okay.
endpoint implementation has to dispatch that task to your service system.
Okay. So it depends on completely the task, what kind of action we are taking, right?
Exactly. Means you will have to write the code. It is not going to
And
do
you
anything by
and
itself.
and something. Suppose I need to fetch data from the database, so
Mhm.
it will go to the message broker, right? Because addition is a third party thing, right?
No, I didn't get it. If you need to
Suppose
get data from
I need
database,
I need to send I need to run a SQL server from the Flask app.
okay.
Okay, so it has to run on a database, server database, and not the my local Flask. Okay, it has to
Uh-huh.
run on the server database.
Mhm.
Okay, so will that SQL will go through the message broker?
No, again, see, what I'm saying is a salary system is having these components. Now, what you will do is you are going to define multiple functions within the system and you will define the implementation for each of the function. And now it depends on that particular implementation that what a task intends to do. If a task requires to fetch some data from the database, it will do that. If it doesn't require, it won't.
Okay, sir. We'll see the implementation. Let's see the implementation, sir, in the code. Yeah.
Sir, on the Flask beat, the Celery beat system, can we say that like we are using the system to push like the just basically what you said, the Celery beat system is used to push tasks to message
Ah, it
broker
is just a
based on
scheduler.
time.
It is
Okay,
just a
it's
scheduler. It will
basically
push
doing
some
it
task
on
to your
basically doing it based on time, right? Without
basically
the
doing
task
what?
coming from the task without the task coming from the Flask app via the user's actions, or is it
Sorry,
like
sorry. Could you please
the
repeat your last statement?
like without the task coming from the Flask app via users actions, right?
Mm-hmm.
So without that we can kind of have task defined in the app, scheduled using Celery beat, right?
You can do that.
Okay.
Yes. So those are called as scheduled tasks. Means you don't need user intervention for pushing those tasks to your message broker. They will be done automatically via salary beat based on the time configuration that you would have set.
And so what is meant by result backend? Where does the data sit?
I will show you when we will see what the status of the task is, what the task has resulted into. I will show you that as well.
Okay, sir.
All right. So shall we start with the implementation then?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Okay, fine. All right. So we will use this code in order to instantiate a Celery, but before that, we will create a Flask application.
So also the WSL thing,
Sorry.
because we'll need to use the WSL terminal in VS Code, right?
Means I will open this WSL terminal from here.
So can you like also use it in VS Code?
Sorry, I could not get what you
So
said.
like, should we like direct, because we are in a folder, right? We are in a specific folder, so we
Correct.
need to open the terminal in that specific folder, right?
Correct.
So how do we? Because if we go via the terminal, we will have to
Mhm.
navigate to this. But
Uh,
if we open VS Code, do we
of course, you
directly
can do that too. Means I am
any?
more comfortable with terminal, so I generally use terminal.
Okay, okay,
Okay, so the very
okay.
first thing that we require here is app.py file. And this app.py file, I am going to create my Flask application. So for that, I would say Flask import Flask. Uh, I would do that, and right after that, main equals to main, then I would run my application with debug attribute equals to true. Now this would create the Flask application for me. Is there anything else that I need to do here? Maybe I will just create one endpoint just to check if everything works correctly. uh, I would define a route for this, and here I would say home hello. That's all. So what will I do is I will just copy this path from here.
So which path? You
The folder path.
okay.
I'll just copy it from here, and I'll navigate to this path. All right, so I am here. Uh, all right, so here what I would do is I would start my Flask app. I would simply say python app.py, python3 app.py. Uh, okay,
So
so
the
I
address
don't
is
have the
not opening.
dependencies, etc. installed. Anyways, I would do that. I hope the Flask application will still work the fine. So maybe what can I do here is I can create a virtual environment.
Sir, how do you navigate to the folder?
I just copied the path from my Explorer and pasted it here. Okay, so the virtual environment has been created. I will just activate it. All right. The environment has been activated too. Now I would install all the dependencies that I require. So what I'll require here is, of course, I will require Flask. The
So
other thing that I require is going
sir,
to be
can you
Redis.
show how to open this from the from VS Code, because I'm not being able to navigate to the exact place.
Here you can come to terminal, and
Okay.
in the terminal you can basically switch between whatever you would want to. So you would go to WSL.
So will WSL open in the exact folder? Okay,
Yes.
it did. Okay, okay.
Uh, yeah, so I am installing Flask and I am installing Celery along with Redis. Okay.
So it is necessary to work with WSL only. Can we work with command prompt also? Yeah.
Uh, yes, it is required because we will be working with Redis here, and
Sir,
Redis
sir, how do
doesn't work
we,
on Windows directly.
Okay.
Yes, yes, tell me.
sir, how do we create the virtual environment inside of this WSL? Because
You can
the,
use virtual env command,
sir, how, because it's
just like I
different
did
from
here.
CMD, right? Okay, virtual env. Virtual env.env. Okay. So how do we activate it?
You would use source, the name of your environment, then you get into bin folder and you run the activate command. Where did I do that? I think here.
Okay. So okay, you named it env. So then you would do bin and then activate. Sir, why double slash?
I did it by mistake.
Okay. No such file or directory. Why? Virtual env.env. Virtual env not found, but can be installed. Okay, this has to be installed.
It is just taking some extra time here. Uh,
Sir, while we are doing our project, should we run our entire application from the WSL side, or is it okay to have those things separate?
it's okay. It depends on you. But if you are anyway opening your WSL, maybe try keep everything here so that you have everything running here in single window.
So do we have to install Python as well in virtual and this WSL?
No, 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 no. Of course not. Means Python should be available in your system, and that would suffice.
Sir, it is saying unable to locate package Python 3 virtually env. Pip is also
Can you
not
do
found.
pip install for that?
Sir, pip is not found. Sudo apt install Python 3 pip.
Try pip3.
Yeah, pip 3 okay. Pip 3 not found again. Sir, so the WSL is completely separate.
Sorry, I didn't get it. Can you repeat?
WSL is completely separate environment from Windows. So it doesn't have access to
Yes.
Windows packages.
No, it will have. It will have.
So it
See,
appears
just
to
like I
not
have
have.
navigated to a Windows or a folder that is in my Windows File Explorer, you should be
Uh,
able to do so as well.
Several, but like, have you been using WSL since the beginning, or have you been using CMD?
I mean, it depends. If WSL is not required, I won't use it. I would simply go with terminal.
So, so should I run these install commands in WSL then?
Which install commands?
Install Python and install virtually env because it is saying not found. Command pip3 not found. Command pip not found.
Is Python available? Can you simply write Python there?
Okay, let me try and do that. So in CMD it is available, but I will. Okay, Python not found.
Python 3.
Uh,
Python 3.
Actually, where have
Python
you?
3 is available.
Okay, so you can say Python
No,
3 hyphen m and then pip install.
okay, Python 3. Uh, so the virtual environment command was not working. So Python 3 pip install. Okay, virtually env. So can you? Okay, Python 3 m. Okay. No module named pip.
Sorry.
No module named pip.
Then can you try pip 3?
Pip 3. Pip 3 is not available. Command pip 3 not found.
What about in your CMD? Does pip work there?
It does work there. So should I do sudo apt install pip3 dot pip?
Can you try one thing? Instead of opening this WSL here in the VS Code,
Huh.
can you open a separate window just like I have done here?
Okay, I'll try to do that.
Okay, meanwhile, my Flask application is up. So let me just check if it is working here. And yes, we are able to see this hello world output. That means the Flask application has been successfully instantiated and it has started working. Now, what will I do here is I will quickly add my Celery code so that I can instantiate my Celery as well. And for that, I am going to borrow some code from documentation. So this is the code that is available in the documentation for Flask Celery. And I would simply copy that and put it in my code base as well. So for that, I would create a separate module and maybe I can just name it worker.py or something like that. And here I'm going to write that. Uh, Maybe I'll just need to correct a few things here. Okay, so what it is doing is it is basically loading this configuration from the key name Celery that you have defined in the configuration of your app. But I have not done anything like that. So what I would do is instead of doing this, I would like to load it from some separate config. Let's say, okay, Celery config. All right, let's do it from here. And in order to load the configuration from this Celery config object, what would I do is I would create it as another file, Celery config.py. Please let me know in case I make a typo here, Celery config.py. And here I would like to write all the key value pairs or the configuration for my Celery system. So does anyone know what configuration should I provide for my Celery system to work? What are the essential ones? Let me come back to diagram. What do you think? What all things I would require here?
The
So I need to
resultant
specify.
backend
I need
message.
to specify, yes, exactly what my result backend is. I also need to specify what my message broker is. Right. So I need to specify these two configurations here. And for that, of course, I am going to use Redis for both of the things. My message broker is also going to be Redis. My result backend is also going to be Redis. Just that I would open these databases at different indexes of Redis. So I would say broker. I think it is broker URL. It is not giving me suggestions. So yeah, I think so. And yeah, I would like to use the zeroth index of my Redis database for my broker URL, and similarly I will have my result backend. No suggestions. Yeah, all right. Came here. I would just change the index to 1 instead of using the same indexes for both the things and using a separate index for that.
So what is this
And
index in 0 and 1?
so what happens is when you use a Redis UI, you would see that Redis database actually provides you with the multiple indices, and each indices is like a separate database for you.
Okay.
All right, so this Celery config that I am loading my Celery configuration from is defined here, and I have defined both the required things, broker URL and result package. Right now, I'm not using Celery beat. Once I will start using that, I would like to specify a few more things here so that we can start working on IST. Otherwise, Celery by default uses UTC behavior. All right. So once I have done that, I will have to import this in my main application.py so that I can integrate the Celery with my Flask application. So for that, I would like to import this worker. Yeah, it is Celery init app. So I would import this Celery init app from here. And after importing it, I would like to invoke this Celery init app by giving my application instance, and I would load this into another variable, let's say
Sir,
Celery.
like, are others able to follow along? I'm kind of stuck here.
Where are you stuck?
Sir, nothing is getting, Python is not found. So I navigated, like I spent 5 minutes just to navigate to the location in the terminal. It is again saying Python not found, or Python. Let me even type Python 3.
Okay, Python, but you said Python was found, right?
Yeah, sorry, Python 3, it is saying is found. And also it is like very, uh, things
Can
are
you do
not
one thing?
visible.
Can you create your virtual environment this way? If virtual env is not working,
So in command line.
in command line.
Okay.
I mean, in WSL or wherever you would want to, just run this
Hmm.
command.
Sir, I have the virtual environment running, but I'm also encountering the same problem.
Hmm.
If either Python is not found, or if Python 3 is found, then pip is not found. So
Yes, same.
Okay, can you try running this command?
so I did it using this command, and then I ran WSL.
Okay, it is
Should
working.
we,
Yes, sir. With this command, it is working.
All right, so maybe you can do that for now.
But then Python, then it's not working in WSL.
so
Pip install is not working.
in command line we should do it then.
This I did in command line, and then I access it through WSL. But then I cannot do anything else, pip install or.
So what's the point then? Should we install
Right, okay,
the
that you can do in your
dependencies?
terminal. So it's okay, means you can do that in your terminal. You can just use your WSL for starting the Redis server.
Okay. So, but will it be able to access all the dependencies and everything?
Sorry.
So, does the Redis server need to access Python or anything? If it needs to access, and if it is running on if it's using forks, and if it is running on WSL, how will it be able to run if it does not
No,
have
you will just run your Redis server on WSL. That's it, right?
the Redis does not need Python?
No, Redis will be run as a separate service.
Okay.
You just need to have Redis installed. If that's the case, then you would be able to run Redis. By the way, is Redis installed in your WSL in your system?
So Redis, not WSL.
No.
How-
Have you installed Redis before?
No.
So Redis is also a separate service that you will have to install separately. If you install Python package, that's not the only thing that you are required to do. You are installing Redis as a package in Python so that you can work with Redis with your Celery system. But Redis has to be installed as a separate service too.
Okay.
Okay, so Pip is working for a few, for others it is not working.
So say I've set the virtual environment as a default environment for the VS Code, which instance which I'm like using. Now,
Let's your. Can you please try speaking a bit louder?
excuse me. So I've installed the virtual environment using CMD, and I've
Okay.
set it as the default virtual environment for the VS Code. So I like install all the dependencies using WSL, or should I install those dependencies using CMD?
Either way.
So what did you install? You installed a Flask and
I installed Redis, Celery, and Flask. Yes, these three
so
things.
we can do pip install Redis, Celery, and Flask, right?
Yes.
Should we like just do space and write?
Of course, you will have to. All right. So what I have done here is I have instantiated my Celery app as well, and the name of my Celery instance is Celery app that I have defined here. So with that thing, I have successfully integrated my work or my Celery system with my Flask application. Now it's time to define some task. Tasks are those functions which we are required to run as uh, basically functions, or you can say tasks, which are actually going to be executed by the workers inside the Celery system, and the implementation is going to tell you that what has to be done. For that, let me tell you what I'm going to do is I am going to create another module or another file so that I can keep everything modularized. Here, I am going to write all the routes that my Flask application has. The other file that I'm creating, I am going to keep all the Celery tasks or the functions that I want to execute on a different server rather than Flask. So let's say the name could be tasks.py. And here, what I would do is I would just import one decorator that I need from Celery, import shared task. And with the help of this decorator that I have imported from Celery, I would be defining all my tasks. For now, I am creating a very, very simple enough task. I use this shared task decorator. And this basically says, I guess there is something called ignore result. Yeah, here it is. So I would like to make it false for now. I would tell you that what happens if you make it true. And okay, add x and y. Okay, let me create this task. Return express y, and here I would just write a simple enough message saying add function info. Now see, what I have done is I have done a very minimal implementation here where I have imported this decorator called share task from Celery, and with the help of this decorator that I have imported, I have successfully created one Celery task. Now, the person who was initially asking that what actually Celery tasks are, so the answer is that this is basically a Celery task in actual implementation. What is a Celery task? It is a simple function which is going to define what all steps have to be executed in order to get the task done. Now, since this is a function, we should be able to invoke this function from our Flask application. For example, let me create a route here, say app.route, and let's say I would name it as test. And here, I would like to invoke this function that is test from my app.py so that I can send some task or I can send some command to my Celery system. And whenever any worker will become available, that task will be picked up. So can someone tell me that how can I invoke this task that I have defined in my
Sir,
tasks.py or this function called add that I have defined in tasks.py here in app.py?
so you have to do delay or something.
But how do I get the access to this add here in
So
app.py?
we have to import uh, add from task.py.
Yeah, correct. we can import that. So I would say from tasks import name is add.
So did you write anything in Celery config and worker.py?
Yes, of course. Celery config, I have specified my broker and result backend, and worker.py, I have simply borrowed the code from the documentation. I have just changed this thing that where I am going to load this configuration for my Celery from.
Sir, can you share the code in the chat?
So could you just go through this worker.py just once?
Yeah, sorry.
Could you just go through the worker.py just once?
Well, you don't really need to worry about it because this is some internal implementation. You don't need to know how does it work. What you need to take care is that what you are doing here is correct. That when you are creating the Celery instance, you should be able to provide the application module name. And the task class should be this inner class that you have defined here. Even if I remove these things, they may not impact at all. If I comment them or uncomment them, these two things are not really important as of now because anyway, we are going to run Celery in the default mode. Later on, I will tell you that what happens if you basically remove this set default. And this app.extensions is also not necessary as of now. So these two things are what is important.
Okay.
Please make sure that whenever you are getting or borrowing this code from the documentation, please change this thing. Otherwise, the configurations will not be loaded correctly. All right. So what I have done here is I have imported this add task or add function in my app.py. Now, can I do something like
Can
this?
you share
Add,
the
let's say,
code
one
for
comma.
worker.py as well in the chat?
Sorry,
The worker.py code.
could you please repeat?
Worker.py.
Worker.py what?
Can you share it in the chat?
Yeah, I have already shared it.
Okay, you have shared it in the chat. So you only shared Celery, not worker.py.
Yeah, this is what I have in my workers.py file.
This you have in what? Okay, Celery config. You have something else.
Yeah, that is in a separate file. Okay.
I pasted that in.
The name could be anything. This is what I got as a suggestion, so I went with this one. Otherwise, it could be any other name. If you change this name, then you will have to also change the other file name. Where are you writing these things?
Like the config and everything, those file names have to be changed.
All right. So my question to all of you here is that what happens if I do something like this and let's say I am going to get this result here and I want to print this result, I want to return this result. Is there anything wrong with it? The code that I have written here.
Sir, delay you have to do, right? Otherwise, it is directly going to call.
Exactly. The problem with this thing is that since we have defined it as a Celery task, we should be invoking this task asynchronously. Right now, what we are doing is we are simply invoking this function as it is. This, though we know that this is a Celery task, but in addition to that, this is also a Python function. And a Python function can be invoked in a normal way, just like we are doing it here. And this should not happen because the reason for us to create these tasks in the Celery is because we want to execute it in a different environment, in a different server, or we want to offload our actual main web server. So if you do it this way, you are again back to the same thing that you are blocking the user. So maybe what will I do is I will just start my application again, and I will tell you what happens. The application is up. The endpoint is test. The endpoint is test. Okay. What I'm returning. All right. So maybe I can just say. Yeah, that's it. All right. So it is simply saying 3, and I would have gotten the same thing in my terminal as well, 3. Remember that I have not started my Celery at all. It has still worked, though my Celery system was not up. That means no worker was available to pick up any task, but still this has worked because I invoked it as a normal Python function. That is why it is able to do it.
The type error is coming.
Where?
So like you also were encountering that error, right? How did you kind
Yeah,
of?
I just converted this result into string.
Okay, okay, okay.
All right, so this is how you would invoke a normal Python function, but we don't need to do it this way. Instead, we would like to invoke it in a asynchronous manner so that this task is actually dispatched to the Celery system. And if we need to do so, we first need to start a Celery system. And how do we do that? Does anyone know?
So what?
How do we start a Celery system? Because as I told you, Celery is a different environment in itself.
The Redis
It has
server
a
command
broker, it
was
has a
there
backend.
something.
We need to start it as a separate service.
So it was like sir used a command Redis server something.
That is for Redis.
Oh, not sure about
For Celery
Celery.
also, there is one such command. So, all right, let me open just multiple windows here. How many do I need? Let me just open 4. Later we'll see. Uh, okay. So I don't have that command right now, but I'll just copy it from here.
Sir, if we have like a very, very big location, right?
Mhm.
Like this you are having, how do we hide that?
How do we?
Hide that in the terminal because literally I'm not being able to see anything else.
No, I didn't get it.
It
What do you want to hide?
because you're navigating, for example, when we are, you can you scroll up?
Huh.
Like this thing you have, right? This big address is there.
The
This
paths.
MNTC path. How do we hide the path?
Okay, okay. This path.
Huh.
I think the terminal should be able to do it by itself.
It
I
is
don't
not
think
doing it.
that we can do it by ourselves. Or
Okay.
maybe there should be some way that I'm not aware of.
Okay.
So I have reached the location that I wanted to in all my terminals. All right. So maybe this one I can use in order to run my Redis service. So I would simply say Redis server. Now, if your Redis is not installed, you won't be able to run this command. So for now, I am able to see this kind of diagram here, and I can see it says ready to accept connections. That means Redis is installed. Uh, the port is basically 6379 here, and that is exactly what I have
Now I
specified in
found
my.
it. Now to
Sorry.
comment, you will use a hash, and then from the new line
Is someone saying something?
you want to go, and then you can make it okay if you want.
All right. Anyways,
Probably attending two calls at the same time.
So let's say I type
okay,
hello.
okay. Fine. So what I was telling you is that the port number that we have used is the same that this Redis server is running on. The by default port is 6379. That's what we have specified as well. So now that a Redis server is running, what I want to do is I want to start my Celery workers as well. And in order to start my Celery workers, there is a command. That command is okay. Firstly, I need to activate my virtual environment here. So my environment is activated, and now I will run that command. The command is Celery -a, and after that we need to give the reference to our Celery instance. Can someone tell me where we have defined our Celery instance in this entire project that we have built so far? Though not a lot of code that we have written, but anyways, does anyone
Worker,
know where we have?
worker.
Like Celery init app.
Sir, can you like show how did you start Celery?
I haven't started it yet.
We've created Celery init app and passed app to it. So that we
Yeah,
need
this
to
is a function, but it is just returning Celery app. I need to invoke this function somewhere so that I can or I can get that Celery instance in actual.
you invoked
Can
it
you,
in app.py, I think.
we got the
I am
object
invoking it.
initialized, right? No, we did not initialize the object, but we did.
Yes, we are doing it.
We
This
did
is the
initialize
actual
the object,
instance
right?
that refers to a Celery instance. Because this is just a function. Sorry, this is just a function. This we are creating. This has to be returned somewhere, right? And that is what we are doing here. When we are
Okay.
invoking this function, then this is what we get in return, and this is our actual Celery instance. Now,
So
what I need
wouldn't
to
the
do here
app
is,
already have the object initialized?
sorry.
If we are when we are running the app, wouldn't the object automatically get initialized?
Yes, of course.
So then why do we
No,
need
no.
to separately start?
The object will get initialized, but the
Hmm.
Celery system won't.
Okay.
You have to also start the workers.
Hmm.
That's what I'm saying. Of course, this instance will be initialized at that point of time,
Hmm.
but we need to start the workers. So my question is that if I want to refer to this particular Celery app instance, how do I refer to it here in my terminal? This is my Celery instance. This is my module name. How do I refer it?
I mean, we could mention what like Python file it's running in, and then try to reference
We
it.
will just specify the module name. Firstly, the module name. Since we are inside the Celery folder, what is the module name?
app.py.
Module name is app, and the instance that we want to refer is Celery underscore app. That's all. And after that, I need to specify this worker in the command so that the system can understand that the workers are to be initialized. And after that, I can specify the log level, but let me not specify that log level as of now. I'll just say celery -a app.celery app and work. Let's see what happens.
Sir, here is we are saying app.celery, right?
Yes.
Is that the name? Are we referencing the name of the module or the app inside?
No, app is the module name.
Module name only.
Yes. All right. So it is saying local connection retry on. Okay, so I am getting a warning here. So in order to get rid of this warning, maybe I'll just have one more configuration here.
So virtual environment is not getting activated
Why?
in WSL.
How are you doing it?
So in the terminal, I'm going and doing source.env/bin/activate.
Where have you created this virtual environment in Windows?
Sir, I use the command line.
So in that case, you should not go via bin. You should go via script folder.
Okay, I should go via script folder.
Yes. This is going to be on startup. Yes, and not false. I would like to specify it to be true. Once I do that, I should not get those warnings anymore.
Command not found.
Sorry?
Sir, command not found. You said like we should, because we were not being able to kind of create the virtual environment in WSL. You said to kind of do it in command prompt, but now when I'm doing it, it says command not found.
Which command?
It's env.env scripts activate.
Can you check your virtual environment? Is there a script folder located there?
Yes, sir. There is a script folder located there.
Okay, then can you just get rid of that source? Can you simply say .env/script/activate? That's it.
So let me try that.
Sir, regarding this, like, can we use the virtual environment we made in like Windows to run in WSL? Because I just checked the files and it's the activate file is saved as a Windows batch file. So
which file? The activate file.
Yeah. Do we have to build it separately for Linux, or can we use the same VNV for that?
Okay, sorry. There is a comment written there. I'll try to use that. The comment is that instead of doing all of this, do source bin slash activate, and it is still not working.
I think you should be able to do that as well.
Wait, let me
From
actually
bash,
try.
from bash they are doing. But how do we run bash in WSL?
You simply write bash, means WSL itself is a bash. So you can directly
So,
write bash here. And means anyway, as I'm saying, WSL itself is a bash. So why do you want to run bash here?
so I do not. Okay, so instead of doing source, hey, it should work then, right? It's not working. Should I'll go to the terminal and do it there.
See, even if I open my terminal, sorry, let's say not open the terminal, I'll just open git
No
bash.
file or directory.
I said bin activate. Yes, I'm able to do it even in my git bash. So that should not be a concern, I guess.
So git bash you're able to do it.
Yes.
So should I instead of using WSL use git bash?
See, you will require WSL so that you can run your Redis service.
So how do I activate it in
Are
WSL?
you able to activate it in some other command prompt? Any other
Yes.
terminal that your system has?
Yes.
Can you try running it there?
What? Running what?
Your virtual environment.
So it is already running in even inside of. So what is happening is my VS Code entire thing is running inside of the virtual environment I created. So when I create a WSL, shouldn't it already be in that virtual environment? And I'm still
When
not
you
being able
create
to
a
run pip
WSL,
or
what do you
anything.
mean by that thing?
So WSL is already there. So when I open the terminal, right, when I get the option to choose WSL
Mm-hmm.
in insert command prompt or WSL, so I choose WSL. So shouldn't, if my VS Code itself is using the .env folder, so I kind of the kind of environment for the uh, VS Code file, the like VS Code instance I've opened, I set that environment to the virtual environment I had created. So shouldn't it already be running that virtual environment? So is there any command which you were going to run on the virtual environment, which will only run if the virtual environment is active in WSL?
Deactivate.
Okay, deactivate. So if the virtual environment was running, it will deactivate, right?
Yes.
Otherwise, it won't. Deactivate command not found again. Sure.
Okay, maybe Ritvik, let's do one thing. Maybe we can take your
Mm.
doubt separately. Otherwise, it is also hindering other people, other learners.
Okay, sir. But there should be like a
Concentration here as well.
session to set this up, right?
Sorry.
Even before these sessions are held, there should be like a session to set this up, because otherwise you cannot follow along.
Anyways, maybe we can just discuss it afterwards. Let me just try to continue because even I
Okay,
guess
sir.
everyone is waiting for. Anyways, let's just continue. Okay. Uh, okay. So what did I do here is, give me that this is running. I specify this and this. Fine. All right.
So
So
could
what
you
I have
show
done
that
here
flag
is,
again?
yeah.
Could
Sorry.
you show that flag again in config that you made to avoid the warning? Broker connection, retry and
You will
stop.
get this warning in your terminal, so you can copy this flag from there.
Okay, okay.
Uh, yeah, all right. So my salary workers are up here. Uh, you can see that there is some configuration, there is some debug configuration here that I can see. But the thing is that there is one task that I have defined in my task.py. The name is add, and I am not able to see that task here. Otherwise, whenever a salary system gets up, whenever the workers get initialized, they basically show what all tasks are currently present in the salary system. But I am not able to see that. Does that mean the salary is not picking up those tasks that I have defined here? because one task is already present. We can see add, which is created with the help of the shared task decorator.
We should start the task. We should tell Celery to do the task, and then I think it will show.
Sorry.
I think it's not showing because we didn't tell Celery to do it, right? Is that it?
No, we have already specified that we want to work with the Celery app. So that
Okay.
means whatever task that we would have defined anywhere in this project, they should have automatically picked up by now.
Oh,
The problem here is that we have not set the default, not the default one. We have not set the log level for this Celery in this terminal here. And due to that, what is happening is the default log level for Celery is warning. And whatever things that we get that basically tells us which all tasks are currently defined in your system, they are basically shown on the log level of debug, or I guess I'm not exactly sure, but I guess info level. One of these things, either info level or debug level. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to close this Celery worker initialization command, and here I would just specify the log level. Does anyone know how can I specify the log level? So I have two ways. Either I can say -L and then I can specify the log level. It is either info or debug or whatever you want to. Or I could say log level, double hyphen, and then I can specify info. Both of these things will work. For now, I'm going with the shorthand where I'm saying -L and info. Once I do that, if I see the list of those tasks, that means we should be able to get that list with the info log level. And yes, now you can see that I have one task defined, which I'm able to see here. That means if you define the log level to be info, you should be able to see all those logs. Even if you define it debug, then of course you would come here as well, because debug is a lower level than info. So they will automatically come up on that log level. So now we can see that the Celery instance is ready and the workers are also ready in order to pick the tasks up in case you have some task. Now what can I do is, how can I push the task? Can someone tell me? So that I can see that Celery workers are doing something, they are executing some function. How can I execute this, or how can I dispatch this task of add to the Celery system?
we call add.delay.
We can do that from the Flask application. But just for the demonstration purpose, what would I do is, let me first activate my virtual environment. Okay. So I have activated it and I'll open my Python terminal here. And here, I would like to import the task that I have defined here. Import tasks. So not this one here. I have imported my tasks, and then I would say tasks dot add dot delay, and I would say 1,2. These are the arguments that I'm providing to my add function. Once I hit enter, it basically says, or it basically returns us this object, and this is providing us with the ID of that particular asynchronous task that has just been dispatched to Celery. Okay, if I come here, you can see that there is this task that was received, and this is the print message that we explicitly wrote here. If you look at it here, I explicitly wrote add function invoke using a print message. That is what is being showing up here, and it has completed the execution of this task in these many seconds, and the result that came up after executing that task was 3. So since I passed the arguments of 1 and 2, the result of these two arguments is 3. That is what I'm getting here. Okay. Next time, what I'm going to do is, I am going to collect this result somewhere. Let's say result equals to. So what I'm doing is, this async result that is being returned by this command called tasks.add.delay, I am storing it in a variable called result. And once I do that, I would like to check that what all properties exist on this particular object, and those properties will include probably the result if the task has completed, and the state of the task if the task is in the pending state, or if the task is in the completed or fulfilled state, or whatever it is. So let's try this. Once I do that, it would have resulted this async result in this result object. And if I come back to my Celery terminal, where is it? Here, it has received one more task, and it again executed it in 0.001 seconds. And the result that came up after executing the task was again 3, because the arguments that were given were 1 and 2. Now, since I have this result object available here, what I can do is I can access some properties here. And those properties basically include, firstly, state. If I say result.state, it says success. That means the task has already been completed. There is something called result.result. See, this result is my variable. It could be any other name as well, but this result is fixed. That means it is one of the properties of this async result object. You cannot change this. So if I do that, it is going to tell me that what is the result of this particular task if the task has already been completed. So if I do that, it says 3. And I guess there is one more function, not sure whether it is ready or something. I'm not able to remember exactly. Yeah, all right. It is ready function. So it is going to tell you whether the task or the result for that particular task is ready or not. If it returns true, that means the task has completed its execution and the result is ready. If it returns false, that means the task is still in the pending state. Now, what I'm going to do is, let me just exit it from here. And I am going to add a delay, let's say of 10 seconds. Import time and time.sleep, let's say 5 seconds, not 10 seconds. Once I do that, I would like to restart my Celery workers. Okay, my Celery workers are up. You can see there is one task that it has, it is basically showing here. Now, I would again start my Python terminal. I would import this tasks. And again, I would say result equals to tasks dot add dot delay 3,6. That's what I'll do. Once I do that, you can see it received one task. It has also printed that statement that I tried printing using print function. And after waiting for 5 seconds, you can see that it took 5.013 seconds in order to complete the execution of this task. And the result that came up was 9. So again, I can run the same functions or run the same properties on this result object. Ready is going to give me true, and result is going to give me 9. Now what I'm going to do is I am going to invoke it again, and this time I would call ready function before 5 seconds. So once I do that, I would invoke ready, and it is saying false. If I say result, it is not giving us anything. That means it is undefined. So far, the result has not been gotten in the result backend. That is why it is not able to give us. Okay, and now if I do that, it should be able to give us the result. It is 9, because this task would have taken 5.007 and these many seconds in order to complete the execution, and as the output we are getting 9. So I hope you are able to see here that how are we able to dispatch the tasks to Celery system.
Sir, how did you add the 5-second delay?
Using time module.
Okay. Okay, sir.
So did you use countdown?
Sorry?
Did you use countdown?
Countdown, yeah, you can use that, but means ultimately we won't be really using that, because you are actually delaying the execution of some function by so many seconds or milliseconds. Of course, means for demonstration purpose you can use that. Otherwise, maybe in real scenarios we won't be using it.
Actually, I was trying to fix my terminal, so
Sorry?
I zoned out because I was trying to fix my terminal. That big thing was coming, right? So I kind of removed it using editing the PS1 and bash RC.
Sorry, what big thing?
So this path, right? So I removed the path in my interpreter.
Okay, so I didn't get it. What do you want to say?
So I kind of zoned out because I was trying to remove this so that I can actually work in WSL. So what you did is like, how did you add the delay? I was trying to ask, like, the normal delay is
So there
fine,
is a
but the
normal,
timing.
or I would say standard Python module called time.
Okay.
I imported the time module, and there is a function called sleep. What
Okay.
it is
You
going to
use
do is, it
time.sleep.
is going
Okay.
to pause the execution for the rest of the code for these many seconds. So after printing this statement, or printing this message, it is going to pause the execution of this function. That means the result won't be returned before 5 seconds.
Okay, sir.
Right? Okay. Fine. So this is how you can basically dispatch tasks to your Celery system, and yeah, you can run these properties or access these properties, or these functions on your actual result object, so that you can actually find out what is the current state of your result. Now, coming back to the same example that I was telling you before, you want to make a CSV upload. The CSV upload is taking, let's say, 1 minute or so. uh, as soon as the user sends you the request, you dispatch that task to your Celery system. Now, you want to give the user the real-time experience. That means, let's say the result is going to take 1 minute 10 seconds, and you want the user to know about this thing, that the task has completed as early as possible. One way is that you can simply say that your task will be completed. You can sit back, and after 5 minutes, you check back. Or the other way is you can do polling. After every 10 or 12 seconds, you are making a request, and you are running this function, either ready result or whichever function you want to run, and you are checking. Let's say if you are running ready function, you are checking if the output of this ready is coming out to be true. As and when the output you see as true, you can let the user know that your task has completed. And if the task result is going to come as false, then what you would do is you would make a request again after a given time interval. So you can basically put this entire thing, let's say, in a set interval block. And let's say the interval can be set as 10 seconds. And whenever you receive the value true for this ready function, what you can do is you can end that set interval. You can clear timeout. Oh, sorry, not clear timeout. You can clear the interval. So I hope in JavaScript you remember there are two functions that we study. One is set interval. The other one is clear interval. Do you remember these two functions?
Yes.
All right. So means you can
So
use
those
these
were with
functions
JS.
in order to get the polling done in your Vue application, or probably any front end that you might have built either using Vue or any other framework. Right? You can just put your API call in the set interval, and you will call this clear interval only when the result that you are getting from the API is true. True means that the task has completed. Uh, all right. So do you have any questions so far?
Sir,
Any
how
questions?
this asynchronous ID we are getting, how this is useful for us?
Exactly. Yeah, that's a good question. And see, currently we were running all these tasks on the terminal, so we were able to use this object, right? Now, what will happen in the actual web application? Because let's say when you are dispatching this task from this particular endpoint, and you are returning some result to the user, let's say you are returning, say, task has been dispatched or something like that. Then, when you want to check back the status, when you want to check back the status, like what is the ready state or what is the result for that particular task, you would require that task ID in order to check the status for that. And let us work on that. Now let me do a similar kind of thing. But before that, instead of doing it this way, what I'm doing is I am doing it like this: delay 1 2, and yeah, this is basically invoking this add 1 2 in this manner. I am printing this result, instead printing this result.id, so that this gives us the actual asynchronous task ID, which we are going to use later on as a reference. And this is exactly what I would return in this API endpoint, result.id. Now, what I'm doing is the thing that we were doing on the terminal, we were dispatching the task to Celery terminal. We were Yeah, now it's time to do it via application itself, via browser itself. So what will happen is, as soon as I'll hit this request, let's say this test, it is going to dispatch a task to the Celery system, and it is just going to return us the ID of that asynchronous task that we were getting here. For example, yeah, this ID. And how will we make use of that ID? That we'll see just after that. So instead of making it fixed or static, maybe what I can do is, uh, can I make it this? Okay, maybe let's do it this way. So could be add this, or maybe add num1, this, then num2. So the endpoint is add, then num1. Uh, do we need this number?
Let's just use XY, not
Maybe
num1,
let me
num2,
just
not
remove this
num2.
add, and I would directly say num1 slash this and num1 2. Oh, sorry, num2 slash whatever the second number is. Here I would get this x and y, and this is going to be x. This is going to be y. So that means whatever URL that I would hit and the values that I'll provide in the URL will be given as parameters to this add function, so that I can be dynamic with my URL in my browser as well. Otherwise, I was required to keep these values as static. Now this won't happen. So I hope this is okay. Yes. So now what I'm going to do is, here my Celery is running. Here my Redis is running. Okay, maybe I can start my Flask application here itself. I would say Flask Python. Once I do that, let me hit this. So test won't be recognized anymore. Instead, the endpoint is going to be num/3/num2/2. Is
So
it the
num1,
endpoint?
num1.
Okay, it is num1. num1/3, num2/2. So see, as soon as I do that, what it is giving us in return is, it is giving us this task ID, right? And if I come back to my Celery terminal, you would see that it would have received the task, it would have completed the execution for that task. So say it received this task, it took 5.006 seconds because we have applied, what I say, a sleep of 5 seconds, and it is giving us the result of 5. Why? Because the arguments that we provided were 3 and 2, right? So maybe what will I do is, I will increase the timeout to 10 seconds so that I get some time to change the ID in the browser as well. All right, so this is done. Now, what I'm going to do here is, I am going to write another endpoint implementation here, and that endpoint is going to tell me that what is the current state for my task. So let me start that thing. So let's say the implementation or the endpoint for that could be maybe result, and yeah, task ID. So what I'm going to do is, I am just going to provide the task ID, and based on that task ID, get result or something like that. Yeah. So, okay, well, it is already giving me some fruitful suggestions that I would like to use this async result function, but I would have to also import this async result. Can someone tell me where should I get this async result from? Any idea?
Celery?
Has anyone used it before?
No. Do we get it from Celery or?
Okay, let's try to import it from Celery.
I feel like it's a Python module maybe.
Sorry?
Is it a Python module or is it from Celery?
Of course, it's a function that comes with Celery.
Okay.
Well, we are not getting suggestions. Okay, we are getting it, but instead of directly importing it from Celery, we have to import it from celery.result. So that's the module where we will get this function from. And now, does anyone know the usage? Anyone? Okay, so we will use this function as it is. We will directly use async result, and we will provide it a task ID. Right? Task ID is what we will get as the result from this endpoint that will act as an input to this endpoint. And what is going to be the result? So let me create return object equals to. Now let us define all the states. So one is status. Did we use status? Do we have status? We have state. Okay, so we will instead use state there.
So status also returns the same thing, right?
I'm not really sure
Okay,
as of
so I'm
now,
not.
since I used status there, so I'm sure
It's a
maybe
status, and
status.
get also get also works like the same as dot return.
Sorry, get data.
So just get result dot get.
Okay, yeah, result dot get also works. Yes.
So that will
Okay.
be like result dot result. Result dot get.
Yes, yes. Anything. Yeah.
Okay.
So result dot state is going to give me what is the current status. So it is either going to give me pending or whatever it is. Result is going to give me the actual result if the task is completed. Task ID, I don't need it. What else do I need? What was the other thing that we tried out? Okay, it was ready state. So the ready state is result dot ready. So these three things are what we will try to get. Status, ready state, I would make it ready underscore state, and the result. It should be return object. I think we can return object. Maybe I'll just see. I think we should be able to. But anyways, we'll convert it to whatever data type we require it to. But let us just try with this. So what I have done is, I think I have changed the sleep timing here. So I will need to restart my Celery. My Flask application is already running with latest configuration because I am using debug in true mode. Fine, done. So let us come back here once again. 127, 5000 result, and we will need to provide some ID to it. Let me hit it. It has given us this ID. I will go and copy this ID and paste it here. Once I do that, it is giving us this. The ready state is false. That means the task is still in the pending state. This is what we are getting in status, and the result is null because task hasn't been completed yet. And let me see in the terminal if this has completed. Yes, it has been. So if I hit it again, remember that I didn't change the ID here. This time I'm getting different result. The ready state is true. The result is 5 and the status is success. Right? So this is exactly what you can hit when you are doing polling. And then you can check what is your ready state. If your ready state comes to be true, you can stop your polling. If it is false, that means you have to continue your polling for the some next set of intervals. So are you getting it? I hope this is clear, right? How can you check the status? Right now, I don't have a front end. Otherwise, I could have shown you it via doing, I mean, by doing polling. But the same endpoint is what you need to hit.
Sir, what this async result is doing here?
This async result is fetching you the data for that given task. You are providing the task ID. This is giving you the task object for that particular task ID, if that is valid.
Okay.
Okay, all right. So that reminds me of one more thing. That is this ignore result false. So far, what we were doing is we were saying that ignore result is false. What does this mean is, can someone tell me? Does anyone remember? What does this mean? Or does anyone know? Okay, so let me come back to my diagram. So here, when we were discussing that how the architecture of this Celery works, so you're saying that the task will be pushed to message broker. From the message broker, the workers will pick up the tasks, whoever is free. And once the task gets completed, the result will be pushed to result back. Right? This is what we discussed. Now here, this ignore result false means that whether the result has to be pushed into the result backend or not. If we are saying that ignore result, that means are the results to be ignored? We are saying false. That means results should not be ignored. Instead, they should be pushed into the result packet. If we make it true, then the results won't be pushed to the backend. And if the results are not being pushed to the result backend, we won't be able to track their status. We won't be able to know whether the status is in the running state or in the completed state. Let us see. I will start this Celery again. Start this. So I have made it true. My salary is up. Okay, let me hit this task again. So I got this new ID. I will go there. I will just replace this ID with new ID. Here I am getting false, null, and pending. Let me come to my Celery terminal. So you can see that the task has already been succeeded, right? It has taken around 10 seconds in order to complete this task, and the result is 5. This is the task ID for that. If I hit it again, it is still showing me that the ready state is false, the status is pending, and the result is done. No matter how many times I am going to send the request to this particular endpoint for this particular task ID, since I have set the ignore result to be true, the result will never be stored in the backend, in the result backend, and we will never be able to track whether this particular task was completed or not. All right, did you get it?
So why would we need to not push the result into the backend?
So it is going to be, hit and forget related things. Let's say when you are using webhook, and as soon as you hit that particular task, you want to send an email to the user's inbox. In that case, you would generally not be concerned about whether that task is completed or not. You would use ignore result equals to true in that case.
Okay.
I mean, where you want to follow the hit and forget type of approach. You send a task and you forget about it. All right. So may I know if you have any questions with the whatever we have discussed so far? Anyone? So shall I assume that everything is understood? Okay, all right. Ritvik, has it started working for you? Is he present in the call? Ritvik, are you there?
Sir, actually I have a doubt regarding the Flask security.
Tell me.
Yeah, so like earlier we had the user class and role class, right? They inherit from user mixin and role mixin respectively.
Yep.
Yeah, and then we had an association table to like link both of them.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, okay. So like I was wondering if we really need that association table or if like Flask security references that table at all.
Yes, of course, that is required. See, the reason we require that association table is because we want to know that which user has which roles. Otherwise, how would you store all this information?
Actually, what I had already done is I didn't make a new database. I had my own that I already made, and in that database, essentially what I've done is I've stored the attributes variable with the user in the user registry. So if there's an entry for a user, there will be an foreign key there for the role there. And in the Python side, what I did was I used backpopulates to sort of get the info
See, if
from
you want
both
to
of the
use the
tables.
default functionality provided by Flask Security, you should go with association table. If you want to
Okay.
customize most of your logic, then of course you are free to do that too.
Yeah, but there won't be any like issues like with Flask security trying to reference that association table or something.
Just the definition should be provided. I think user and role
Okay.
definition is absolutely necessary because that is what you require for instantiating the security object.
Okay. So and one more thing, like how does Flask security even know the association table exists? Because for user we inherit from user mixin and so it knows. For role we inherit from role mixin and so it knows. But for the association table, will it just or will it know?
It will be the name, the role underscore users, that name.
Okay, so that name should always be constant then.
Yes.
Okay, okay, okay.
Uh, all right. Okay, so if there are no more questions, then I guess I am pretty much done with the demonstration that I wanted to do in the today's session. In the next session that I will do, I would like to tell you about the Celery beat so that we can learn about uh, periodic task or task scheduling. Let's say, well, this is a very popular use case of your project statements as well. There is a requirement that you would want to send an email to the user at the start of every month, or you would want to send a reminder daily to all the users that your application has. So, how will those things be taken care of? This will be taken care of using Celery, where you will configure a task to be sent at a particular or a given time interval every day, and probably on the first day of every month, depending upon the configuration that you choose. So this is what we will see in the next session, along with the webhooks. So I guess webhooks will be covered in week 10 if I'm not wrong. So maybe we can just discuss a very basic example for how the webhooks are supposed to be used, and yeah, maybe we can do it for Google Chat, or let's see, we'll do it in the next session. So this is what I plan to do in the next session.
Sir, one request. Whatever you did today, it's fine. But if you can give some installation step, as most of us has Windows system, so if you can give some document like pointer how to install this WS in Reddish or this Celery system in our system, then
Okay,
it will be helpful. Some setup steps.
okay, okay. All right, sure. I'll
So,
get this done.
trying to add to that, maybe you can add like a tutorial video or something, like
See,
with these
it
steps.
is definitely not possible in a tutorial video because see, WSL installation itself is going to take a lot of time, and it would require, I guess, rebooting a couple of times as well. So that is why a live session is generally not recommended for doing all these installation steps. Otherwise, means it is going to take up the entire time, and maybe 2 hours are not going to be sufficient for showing all these things. So maybe what will I do is I'll
Actually,
share you a tutorial that is going to guide you and run you through all the steps that are required.
actually, I'm not sure if we definitely need to like use like download just WSL because there's an easier like simpler way. If you go to like Microsoft Store, you can download like Ubuntu for Windows, and that will automatically install WSL in that. So if
I
you're
think this
having
is one of the steps. Yeah,
yeah.
means you would have to go to store to get the Ubuntu distribution. I mean, is there any other way as well? Yeah, I think you can also enable it in your
I
Windows
think
settings. Anyways,
before I think before that Ubuntu like distro was in the store, there was like a separate way to download and install WSL for Windows. I think maybe somebody is trying to do that. Not sure.
All right, means anyway, I'll try to get some documentation for it and I'll share it with you.
Also, sir, some command for git bash, because we don't know the command of bash, like how to create virtual environment, which you are using in this session. Also mention that in that document.
Okay, okay. Well, I don't think I used a lot of commands that are specific to Bash. Maybe you could use these commands in any other environment maybe you work with. Uh, Anyways, firstly, I would try to get all the installation steps done. After that, we can figure out what else is remaining.
Okay, sir.
Uh, okay, so maybe I'll just close these things. Okay, Redis is also required. So yes, the Redis also needs to be installed as a separate service. So hopefully I will try to get you all these steps before the next session so that uh, from the next session onwards we can work on it. All right. So any other questions that you guys have?
Is the session over?
Yeah, I'm pretty much done.
Okay, so I'll see the recording. I had to go somewhere because there was some.
Were you able to fix the issue?
Sir, I was able to shorten the path one. Then I was able to install like I saw that WSR already had Python, so I was able
WSL
to
already had.
already had Python installed. So what I did, I first did this update thing because pip was not getting installed. But when I
Okay.
did sudo apt-get update, it installed all the dependencies which were missing from WSL for Ubuntu,
Okay. Okay.
right? And then I was able to install pip. After this, I have not done anything. I'll probably just install that Celery and everything. Also,
Okay.
when we copy the path to Ubuntu, the WSL, we should add either we make a habit of not giving spaces in our file names, or we add a comma in the path. Then we will be able to easily navigate to the folder if we want to use the terminal like sorry you were using. So this is what I was able to do. Then I know missed the entire Celery part, but I'll see the recording and I'll catch up to it.
See, I didn't get that part where you were saying to add commas or avoid adding spaces in the folder names,
Sir,
etc.
whatever path is right.
Uh-huh.
So path slash uh, some file with spaces. It should be like this in the comment,
Okay.
right?
Yes.
Because otherwise it will say that the path is too long or some random message, which is obviously not correct,
Okay. Okay. All right.
right? So
Otherwise, you
this
can simply copy the path from the
uh,
Explorer and paste it as it is.
sir, it is not
Maybe it
working.
works.
It is not working for some reason. So maybe you're following a practice of not giving spaces in your file names, which is
But
probably
my
a good
folders have
practice.
spaces.
So I don't know why, or maybe if it's a short path, then it is not having an issue. But if it's like a long path, if you have like folders and subfolders, then it is not really working. So because I was facing this error, so that is why I'm saying.
Okay, all right. Okay, so maybe you can just refer to the session afterwards. The
Mm,
recording is available on YouTube,
mm,
and maybe you can just send me an email in case you run into any of the errors. Now that you have already figured
mm.
out what was the issue with it.
Yes, sir. I've been able to run pip. So now I think I only have to just do that run, like pip
Okay, the
install
other major
Ubuntu
thing
form.
is you will have to install Redis as well.
Yeah. So I'll. So you must have installed it right in this
Yes, of
session. So
course.
I'll just see the recording, install it. If I have any issues, I'll contact you. So what is your mail ID?
All right. So mail ID is abhishek@study.iitm.ac.in.
Okay. Can you like share it on the chat? or maybe at least confirm your name spelling. Okay, fine, chat. Okay, thank you, sir. I'll contact if I have any issues.
All right. Anything else from anyone? Okay, so maybe I can close
Also,
the live stream.
also said the path which I changed, right? If anyone is interested, I I actually just went to the home